Okay, Dan's joining us down there in Tampa. Good to see you, sir. We will get to you in just a minute here. But I'm going to go to your boy Max first, who's laughing it up. Max, what do you think? Should any teams consider trading for Wentz, and if so, who?
You know, I was prepared to say no. Hell no. No one should trade for Wentz. And then it occurred to me as I was hearing that foolishness from the Eagles by way of Adam Schefter. Yeah, you know who should trade for Wentz? Anyone who wants draft compensation. Because not only are the Eagles putting this nonsense out there as though he's worth anything on the trade market, but the fact of the matter is he has negative trade value. Anyone foolish enough to take on that contract is going to need draft compensation to do it. Look what just happened to Jared Goff. By the way, Matt Stafford has a more team-friendly deal, and Matt Stafford is a better quarterback than Goff. Goff went to 2 Pro Bowls and a Super Bowl. And to switch those 2 players, it cost to get rid of Jared Goff 2 firsts and a third. And Goff is better than Wentz. He's more reliable than Wentz. He's less injury prone than Wentz. He has a better track record and resume than Wentz. 2 firsts and a third. You are not only never going to get a first-round pick or a second-round pick for Wentz, it is my prediction that he has negative trade value, and you will, in fact, get draft compensation for trading Wentz. So the Eagles actually are the team that's going to have to send the draft pick. I would say if you're looking to stockpile some draft value and you think Carson Wentz could be a reclamation project as a backup, you should trade for him. How do you like that? I changed my mind.
Well, first of all, I am not a proponent of drug. I am not a proponent of illegal drug use by myself or anyone else for that matter. So I certainly won't advocate a team giving up a first-round pick for Carson Wentz, because I think that they should be drug tested if somebody were willing to do that. However, I will say this. I wouldn't say no team should consider trading for Carson Wentz. It's about the greatness of you as a coach and a staff and what you think you can do with a talent who has just veered in the wrong direction. Again, if I never saw the talent, if I never saw passion, if I never saw inspirational play and stuff like that, that would be different. Like I remember I used to look at Jay Cutler, and I never once questioned Jay Cutler's talent. He just always looked depressed and how he was disinterested in his job. And his vibe and his body language came across in such a way that it affected the people around him, in my estimation, to their detriment. That was my issue with Jay Cutler. But I would never say that the talent wasn't there. Carson Wentz, we saw Carson Wentz be a top 2 league MVP candidate 3 years ago. He has it in him. It just hasn't shown itself over the last couple of years, especially last year. The year before, they were just inundated with a bunch of injuries. Last year, this past season that is, he was just awful. He was just bad. Having said all of that, Bill Belichick can use the quarterback. Bill Belichick knows how to coach. If the New England Patriots had an opportunity to get their hands on Carson Wentz, I think it's something that they should consider, because I believe that Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniel would know what to do with something like that. Indy, Phillip Rivers has retired. Last time Carson Wentz was relevant, remember, Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. Even though Nick Foles came in there and took them to a Super Bowl, they were like 11-2 when Carson Wentz had gone down and en route to a top seed in the postseason before Carson Wentz went down. Frank Reich was there. And so to me, when I think about coaches like that who've proven they know what to do, if you give them some talent, that they could manufacture something good out of these guys, I think it's worthy of consideration. I wouldn't say giving up a first-round pick to do it, but I definitely would support them trying to make a go for it.
First rounder.
Yeah, first of all, Max, you don't have to tell us that you changed your mind. No one's surprised by that. We've been through this for a couple years with you when it comes to you changing your mind. Yes, teams should be calling to try and trade for Carson Wentz. But I would ask 4 questions to Carson Wentz before I did that. Number 1, what did you learn from this past year, from this past experience that you had your hand in why the situation became what it was? Number 2, can you be great again? Do you believe that you can be a great quarterback again? Number 3, why should I believe you? And number 4, how do we get there? I think that if you can have those 4 questions answered from Carson Wentz, and you feel good about what those answers are, then yeah, the coach should be calling. The Bears should be calling. Those would be the 2 teams that I think make the most sense because, one, they both have prior histories with Carson Wentz. John DeFilippo in Chicago, and then obviously Frank Reich in Indy. They both have championship caliber defenses that they're just needing really consistent and competent quarterback play and maybe even high-level quarterback play to get them into the playoffs and be potential Super Bowl contenders. So I like that aspect of it. San Francisco, if you're telling me that we don't think that Carson Wentz is more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo, that Carson Wentz can take that scheme that Kyle Shanahan runs and bring it to the next level with his athleticism and his ability to throw the ball outside of the pocket, come on, like that you're talking. And why does everybody go, you can go Carson Wentz 2017? Max, I'll say it again. Go to Carson Wentz 2019. Just go watch that tape and get that
in 2019.
Player. Max, get out of here, Max. I'm done with you in that
and this
conversation.
is what boggles my mind, Dan.
Get out of here, Max.
As much as you analyze the position, really, I praise your ability to analyze the position, to teach on television even. You've taught me stuff watching you on TV. But you've just totally missed it with Wentz. You have a blind spot. Why do you think it is? So it was coincidence that I saw the decline of Wentz in 2019 in the second half, and then it continued this year? It was coincidence, or was I actually seeing something? Carson Wentz, I do change my mind sometimes.
Max,
when new evidence
let him answer your question.
In 2017, in 2017,
you asked the question, but you answered it.
2017, yeah, it was a rhetorical question. In 2017, Carson Wentz was great, and I said so. He has not been great since then. He's been getting worse and worse and worse, and what you see now is the culmination of that. Jimmy Garoppolo is a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, period.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, Max, and I want you to answer it, okay? So you say in 2019 that Carson Wentz regressed, and then the production says that with basically third-string players, he threw for 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and accomplished something that had never been done in NFL history. So you think he did that while regressing? I want you to explain to me how that happens. How a quarterback playing with a bunch of backups breaks NFL historical records while also regressing. You teach me how that happens, Max.
Sometimes passing records for teams that are having to play comeback football in this day and age will look better than, in fact, the play on the field. Carson Wentz in the second half of that season was playing an awful division. He fared worse against each one of those NFC teams than the backup quarterbacks in the NFC East fared against those same teams right around the same time. And he would consistently fumble and turn the ball over late in games on third down. I was noticing that, Dan, and I was talking to people who told me that Carson Wentz was changing the play constantly, was not running Doug Peterson's offense, was a problem unwittingly. He was trying to be a leader, but a problem in the locker room. It all culminated this season. That's why he has negative trade value. That's why the Eagles are trying to plant in the media ideas that they're going to get a first or multiple firsts for him. That's ludicrous.
You didn't answer the question, first of all, and I'm not going to ask it again because you continue to run from that question. All I know is this. At that position in the NFL, the hardest thing to find is the talent. That's the hardest thing to find is the talent. And if you can sit down with Carson Wentz and get those questions answered of what did you learn this year? Maybe Carson Wentz says to you, like, you know what I learned? That I was too hard-headed, and I played too selfish, and I tried to do too much, and I didn't put in the work that was necessary for me to have the consistent level of success. What happens if you ask the question of, can you be great again? And Carson Wentz is like, absolutely. I can be better because of the things that I went through and the trials that I went through. What happens if you ask the question like, Carson Wentz, do you want to play football again? Like, do you still love the game? And he goes, I've never missed it more than I've ever missed it. What happens if he goes, all I need is a coach to believe in me, and you bring me to a place that could believe in me and allow me to unleash my talent? What happens if those are his answers? You mean to tell me that an organization at his age, with his talent, is not going to go, yes, it's worth us to give up this first-round pick because I know that if those answers are accurate, I've got a bona fide stud on my hands.
Excuse me. Dan, I wouldn't go as far as to say he would be worth giving up a first round for, but I would say this to you because you're my buddy. I like you, Dan. I like you on the show. I like you on NFL Live. I love you on SportsCenter. I love you dissecting games the way that you do. You look very upset right now, and I'm here for you, my brother. I'm going to relieve your angst by educating you about something when it comes to Max Kellerman. Don't get upset. Calm down. Relax. Don't get too upset at a guy that told the national television audience, you wasn't on the segment, Dan, Max Kellerman told the national television audience last week that because he was wrong about Tom Brady for 4 years, that makes him the expert on Tom Brady. Think about that. I'm the expert on Tom Brady because I was wrong.
Close. No. What I said was.
He said 3 years. It was the 18 months because Max started here July 25th, 2016.
This has nothing to do with Tom Brady. Nice try.
18 months.
What I said was.
For the last 3 years he was wrong, but that made him the expert.
What I said about Tom Brady was since everyone else assumed that he would be the first person in history to do what he did. In fact, since you assumed it, I guess you don't give him much credit.
Did you not come on national television last week and say you were the foremost expert on Tom Brady because you were wrong for the last 4 years? Did you not say that on national television?
Yes or no? You can't win the argument, you make it ad hominem. Don't worry about. We're talking about Carson.
That's what it is.
We're talking
about you believing that you should be the expert.
We are talking
because
about
you're
Carson
right when you admit that you're wrong.
No, you're hijacking this topic because I'm right on the topic, and you're trying to make it an ad hominem attack instead of dealing with the argument.
Most people don't know what you mean when you say ad hominem.
I did not say what you're claiming I said. You're in the ballpark, but you're wrong. But I'd like to get back to this topic. You're in the ballpark. But I'd like to get, if I think you're right, I'll say guilty. But that's not what I said. Dan, the Carson Wentz thing is very simple. You're right. If he said all those things, there are teams that should probably take on that horrible and gigantic contract of his. And in order to do so, they should also get draft compensation. There is no team that will give up a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. That's not going to happen. And I suspect he has negative trade value. But yes, the right team, if they convince him that it's still in there and he wants to get better and he can look at his mistakes and look at himself and get better, it's worth a flyer as your backup to see if maybe he can reclaim past glory. Negative trade value. They ain't getting no first-rounder.
All right, I'm going to leave you guys with this. I received 2 texts during the segment. One said, Dan Orlovsky looks like he's about to take his school pictures. And one was, Max is like the guy who's been divorced 4 times trying to teach people about marriage. And I will leave it with that, and we continue on here.
Who was the first text from? That's what I want to know.
I'm not telling that. Dick Vermeil, guys, with some very strong comments.